Keir Starmer's authoritarian government, the demise of free speech in the UK. Keir Starmer's rise to power in the United Kingdom has brought with it an unsettling shift in governance, one that increasingly mirrors the authoritarian methods of past regimes. The once vibrant tradition of free speech in Britain is slowly eroding under his leadership, as dissenting voices are being silenced through legal intimidation, imprisonment, and covert pressure. Britain, a nation that has long prided itself on democratic principles and individual freedoms, is regressing into a state reminiscent of the Middle Ages. Under Starmer, a new age of fear and suppression is being crafted, where open dialogue and criticism of the ruling establishment are punishable offenses. Starmer's policies appear to be following in the footsteps of Mussolini's regime, another era marked by repression and censorship. In modern Britain, speaking out against the government is increasingly perilous. People who dare to challenge the government's narratives are being jailed, raising concerns about the state of democracy in the country. Those who critique Starmer's policies or question the motives behind his actions are cast as enemies of the state, while the apparatus of government tightens its grip on civil liberties. At the heart of this authoritarian approach is not just Starmer himself, but the forces behind him. Starmer is widely perceived as a puppet of a greater power, carrying out the will of the elite cabal, often associated with the Rothschilds, a family historically tied to global finance and conspiracy theories surrounding world domination. This shadowy pyramid of power controls not only the City of London, a hub of international finance, but also wields influence over world leaders. Starmer's ascent to the top of British politics, therefore, is seen as part of a much larger agenda, one of total control over the planet's resources, economies, and populations. Starmer's tenure has made it increasingly clear that he is following a meticulously designed script. His legal background and MI6 training have made him more adept at concealing his authoritarian tendencies than his predecessors. Unlike Boris Johnson, whose leadership was marked by impulsivity and scandal, Starmer operates with a quiet efficiency, silencing opposition through calculated measures. He has employed laws and regulations to crush dissent under the guise of maintaining public order and security, pushing Britain further toward a state of surveillance and control. Ruling by fear is not a novel concept. History is filled with examples of leaders who have maintained power by instilling fear in their citizens, whether through direct violence or more insidious methods like censorship and imprisonment. Starmer's government has turned this tactic into an art form, reminding critics of the darkest periods of human history. By quelling free speech and criminalizing dissent, Starmer is establishing an atmosphere of fear, where citizens are afraid to speak their minds, and the government becomes unchallenged. What is often forgotten, however, is that Starmer's government and the larger elite he represents are still the minority. The 1% is attempting to dominate and subdue the remaining 99% of the population. Historically, such attempts have rarely succeeded in the long run, as the human spirit's desire for freedom and self-determination tends to rise against tyranny. The French Revolution serves as a reminder of what can happen when the ruling class pushes too far. When Marie Antoinette reportedly suggested that the starving masses eat cake, the French aristocracy soon learned the hard way that ruling by ignorance and oppression only fuels rebellion. Today's world is not that different. The conditions that led to past revolutions are once again beginning to manifest. The consolidation of power in the hands of a select few, the restriction of civil liberties, and the increasing disparity between the elite and the rest of the population all signal an impending backlash. Starmer's Britain, ruled by fear and suppression, may soon find itself at the center of a modern revolt against the global power structure. In conclusion, Keir Starmer's government has set Britain on a dangerous course, one where freedom of speech is sacrificed in favor of authoritarian control. His role as a figurehead for the global elite is becoming increasingly transparent as the cabal continues its mission for total domination. But history shows that such attempts to oppress the masses rarely succeed in the long term. The question remains, will the British people, and indeed the world, rise up before it's too late? Or will they be forced, as in times past, to take their fate into their own hands, reclaiming their rights through rebellion? The clock is ticking, and the lessons of history should not be forgotten.